you're setting this vision, and you've got this purpose, and you've got this fire in your heart, and you know beyond all else that's what you're meant to be doing, but you can't seem to get there, and you keep setting the intention, and you keep doing what everyone says you're supposed to be doing, and yet the biggest thing Spirit's always shown me is step by step, and you're breaking down those walls. And it may not, like, as long as you continue to plant those seeds, that you are essentially finding the inroads to all those pathways. Like, as you go through your karma and your evolution, a lot of stuff sort of gets, imagine a forest where you're always on the same path, and that's the path you continue to walk down lifetime after lifetime. But what we're doing through planting these seeds is actually opening up these other pathways. The ones less walked are the ones with value, because that is breaking free of the karmic baggage, and that is where the opportunity lay.
And it is my absolute pleasure and joy to have magnetized her gifts so that we can join together and deliver. I believe together we are more. And she is the vision and inspiration of Airmeith. That is A-I-R-M-E-I-T-H. And we're going to explore that as well during this session. Susan's a psychic and a medical medium who understands how health is a mind, body, and soul journey. The past, present, and future all coming together, impacting on how you exist in the now moment. She sees and accesses the web of reality that connects you through all frequencies and recognizes the resistance and densities that has shifted you from your divine source blueprint, how that impacts the light code till it no longer optimally communicates your truth. And so we are aligned. You've heard me speaking about this as well. And it's so profound when you can get into the nuts and bolts of how this can liberate you and put you firmly into your sovereign source. And when you lead from that space, and when you experience life from that space, joy just seems to follow you as you shine your light to others and help them to remember as well. Susan is a quantum leader that is using a diverse set of divine tools, now including assisting frequencies and water bending, to create correction in the network matrix of threads. Now, guys, you don't need to know anything about all of this. It sounds very abstract. It's very quantum physics based, and it all makes sense mathematically, but just feel with your heart, right? So she updates the resonance, shape, and structure of your life force through the cocktail of diverse healing modalities that she uses. This brings incredible and immediate results that can be seen through her testimonies on her webpage. It's so cool. When I announced that we were having this pop-up session, everyone's commenting, "Oh my God, I'm so excited," and "Oh, holy cow," you know, she's amazing. So she does offer one-on-one healing services, light code activations, and mentoring to help empower you through using a diverse set of spiritual tools and techniques. But really, the zoomed out premise is you get to step into your soul activation and your higher purpose when you partake of the wisdom that she's here to help everyone remember. So without further ado, Susan Green, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Airmeith and anything that comes through to you that would kind of set the stage for what you're all about in this lifetime. I know that's a big thing to ask, but just fill us in on you, the essence of you, and what you came here to do.
Well, how do you put that in a nutshell? I think I'm going to go back a little bit, because my upbringing and my life is what brought me into this spiritual journey ultimately. And my past was very, I dealt with and experienced fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue for the majority of my life. And it's interesting, as you're going through these experiences and you really don't feel like you're living fully, and you see people around you and they're like just doing even the simplest things like going for a walk or showering without being exhausted. And for someone with fibro and chronic fatigue, it is just constantly counting what I used to call spoons, which is your energy, to see what you could or could not do in a day. So as I progressed, eventually I got to a point, and I was close on 40 by this time, that this just can't be right. There's got to be more. And I took a punt on me, and I went to see a lady in a shop about a past life session, because I always just was fascinated with past lives. And from there, I started doing Reiki sessions, and within about 3 sessions, I knew that this was my calling. It was amazing. It was just like a light had been turned on, and it was incredible because each session I did, I was literally knocked flat for the week, and I couldn't function. So obviously I was releasing massive amounts of stuff as I then shifted into a more positive frequency. But I attuned to Reiki, and then I attuned to Reiki 2. And then about that point, I moved over to UK because I was in Australia at that point. So I moved into UK, and I continued my own journey, pretty much self-reliant. And from that point, I'd sort of made a decision to stop thinking logically, because logic never actually seemed to work out. That's where I'd been my whole life, as I dealt with these symptoms of illness. And so I just followed spirit and I took lessons, and I used to get these prompts. It's like time to learn, and so I would just write and listen and write and listen and write and listen, and I just absorbed information from wherever I could get. And about 12 months down the track, I started this business, and I was called to Airmeith because she is a Celtic goddess of healing, and she has a remarkable story of the goddesses from that Celtic land. And the story's on my webpage. You could look into it more if it is of interest to you. But from there, I literally started with nothing, and it was like my page had like maybe 2 services on it, and I was really terrified, and I was still working through so much. And I think this is the beauty of step by step and just trusting and believing in yourself, because I started just with nothing, and spirit was like, it's okay, the people will come. And I'm like, but I've got nothing. And so I was writing these blogs each week, and this was like very much trying to heal me as much as trying to connect with other people as well, I guess. Tell your story to help others as well. And that did, like, I was consistent, and I just kept putting myself out there. And then over the years, like, I continue to listen and do these lessons with spirit and understand, and this modalities of what I call just spiritual toolbox has grown. And in the process, I started making an oracle deck, which was incredible. Just that journey in itself of connecting with animals and their story and understanding their energy to help with the healing path that I was on. And then it's sort of like gone into pendulum healing, where we make pendulums and we incorporate charts. So everything I've learned and downloaded from spirit, I've also incorporated into prompts of like chart sets. So everything seems to be geared toward empowering others. So here I'm on this journey. I've seen myself go from literally not functioning on any level to being perfectly healthy and having lots of energy and so much clarity that I can actually be a psychic. Like, that's incredible, right? Like, when you're like, that life that I had before, that seems like it's a different person completely, because where I am now, there is no comparison, except that it set the stage. I guess it gave me the inner strength and the wisdom needed to then move forward into helping others and understanding that diversity. Like, one healing modality is great. So I started with Reiki, but then I was shown the pendulum, and then I was shown how to work with runes, and then the ogum and the plant energy and how magical that is. And when you start working with crystals, and then you bring water bending into the and assisting frequencies. And it was like, when I discovered Holly, it was like it unlocked something new again. It's just like all these different windows and facets that you can look through to empower your own journey. So when you bring it all together, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You bring it all together, and it's like, boom, your soul starts to shine, and it finds its way home. So
absolutely,
yeah, and that's where we are now.
And it's you really stirred within, I think, all of us that that validity that your mess is your medicine. I mean, I wrote a journal about it, and I see more and more of us, as we come to the forefront to lead the way, we aren't ready, we aren't perfect, we're just brave and willing to shine a light on what we've found. And that, I think, is true fulfillment in life. As you said, it's like the more you discovered the things that worked for you, that filled your soul and that healed you in totality, the more on fire you were for that passion to then say, oh my gosh, guys, this is incredible, you can do this too. And it's that empowerment circle. It's that lifting each other up. And I absolutely adore, yeah, Reiki. I got level 2 attuned. And I remember as well, my eyes completely covered over in conjunctivitis, like pink eye. It was the wildest thing. And these healing symptoms that you have when you go into a return to the memory of wholeness, often they can scare people away. They think that, oh, there's something wrong. And you've got this cellular memory of dis-ease that's actually coming out physically that results in these sometimes jarring detoxing periods, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And it's just part of the journey of, again, rising up into more, expanding your awareness, tapping into the connectivity around us. And I also love that you were talking about the healing, in my mind. And again, you and I are very open and always expanding. So this conversation isn't a black or white. It's always going to be full spectrum and then beyond what we can see. And I think that's part of the true spirit of quantum leading, is to know that we're never done, that we're always going to continue to expand. And as we do, our awareness increases about all these other gifts and potential ways to then take and pluck and mold and deliver more and more magic to the world as we grow together. It's such an exciting time to be alive. I congratulate you for following that, that struggle. Yes. It is. There's the healer's journey, that it's an epic, heroic quest for self-improvement and discovery. And when you go in like that and then you come out, it's like, oh, wow. And then you start connecting with your soul tribe, your soul family, which is exactly what you and I have done. It's amazing. You came in on the IMB party. We were talking about how we're all part of the whole and we're pollinating different edges of our fractal with goodness so that this world can really come back into remembrance of wholeness. And that's the last thing I want to say, and then get your opinion on anything else you want to talk about regarding this. Is I believe that all healing is a return to the memory of wholeness. And actually, if you break down the word healing, the root words mean a return to the memory of wholeness. And so it's like we have amnesia here in these bodies. And as you do your work, you connect people back into their undistorted truth. And that brings clarity, that brings peace, that brings intuition. As you said, you were suddenly going, holy moly, I'm psychic, It's like everyone, that's our natural state. And so what do you want to say about any of that? Because it's just a fascinating journey, returning to wholeness. And you have a way of transcending dimensionalities. And if you want to talk a little bit more about what that means to you, how that really anchors into people's fullness in the now, I would love to hear whatever comes up in response to that.
So I think the important thing to remember is often that when you are stepping onto the journey, and even when you're partway through, like, people have a vision and you know what you want, but it can seem worlds away. And that's the problem. So you're setting this vision and you've got this purpose and you've got this fire in your heart, and beyond all else that's what you're meant to be doing, but you can't seem to get there, and you keep setting the intention and you keep doing what everyone says you're supposed to be doing, and yet the biggest thing Spirit's always shown me is step by step, and you're breaking down those walls. And it may not, as long as you continue to plant those seeds, that you are essentially finding the inroads to all those pathways. Like, as you go through your karma and your evolution, a lot of stuff sort of gets, imagine a forest where you're always on the same path, and that's the path you continue to walk down lifetime after lifetime. But what we're doing through planting these seeds is actually opening up these other pathways. The ones less walked are the ones with value, because that is breaking free of the karmic baggage, and that is where the opportunity lay. So the more you continue to set your intention, the more you're making tracks into the the vibration of magnetizing and meeting the right opportunities, lifestyle and people, the thought processes, the inspiration that takes you then step by step back into your wholeness and truth. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting thing, because between reality here and when I see this energetically as we pan out, that inspiration, that originality of a person. So if you imagine you are this light soul and you've got this threaded network of divine, beautiful threads around you, but when I see this, it's almost like you can transverse and you can see where they're blocked or they're stopping, and it's like having road signs up. And so you've got to start taking these down, and you've got to start re-knitting and re-webbing, and you can find the flow and ease and grace, you know, working through the different healing modalities. And that's what's so beautiful, because each healing modality seems to have its strength within a different area. And so when you bring it together as a cocktail and you're working with all healing modalities in all ways, you are bringing that wholeness, rather than just using Reiki or just using runes or just using assisting frequencies. It's the coming together which awakens the light code fully within the body, within the mind, within the soul, to re-knit that fabric, that network that brings you back to your divine blueprint, that divine source blueprint, instead of the container we're born into, locked in this lifetime, because that's what we've known, that's what our ancestors have known, that's where the coding and the energy holds us. That's what we're shining from the inside out. And that's where you start breaking free and re-threading. Yeah. And it's just, that's where your mind starts reconnecting to a lot of thoughts and ideas, and all those seeds you've been planting all these years suddenly come to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really, I want to illustrate the point that a lot of healers overlook, and that is when you're supporting someone else in your soul family, we often are too close to our own stuff to understand the areas of our field that have gotten distorted. And so, like Susan, the other day, she was saying something and she said, and she tells me this nugget of gold about my energy field that was so spot on. And so I encourage you guys as healers to, yes, we want to heal ourselves, and that's ultimately the only way to do it. However, we are all one, and Susan and me and other people, everyone on this call, you can see different things from your soul family that they can't, perhaps because they're too close to it. And so this is where it's so beautiful to actually hire other healers you connect with and say, what do you see? And Susan, not to put you on the spot, but like, do you want to take a question and or an issue from someone and see if you have any response psychically to potential words of wisdom to help bring them back into their divine mapping? That could be a fun thing to do. Yeah.
I'm open to anything.
Let's get into a conversation so that we can apply some of this information. I also want to share with you what the heck is an assisting frequency consultant. Basically, Susan and I now work together. She gets to take any of my technology that I've built, water bending and assisting frequencies, and integrate that wisdom into her own bliss biz in any way she chooses. I am one of the rare healers that is non-territorial with my work. When we work together, it's yours. And what are you going to do with it? You know, are you going to become a world-renowned baker using assisting frequencies? Or, you know, the sky is literally not the limit, it's the portal to more. And so I want people to simply remember that they have these tools available. How that then gets baked and expressed into Susan's own unique magic and the people she reaches is solely her own. And so as she begins to digest and use and remember more of her magic through these tools that help support her as a healer, she can then go out and either share exactly what I'm doing or build her own or more. And so let's get into some of these questions here. So, okay, so we have Lizette. She has some money blocks. She feels it's due to her past lives. And so how would you recommend, Susan, that Lizette and others who have these money blocks from potentially past lives, but also we have to acknowledge the programming in the 3D world of lack and limitation, and also the healer's oath, and the whole 9 yards as to why we feel lack in an abundant world. So she's asking, she has money blocks and it feels like it's due to past lives. How would she go about figuring out what's needed to unravel those patterns, those blocks. If would you like to take that question?
Sure.
Okay.
So what it feels like is actually for yourself, it feels like emotional energy. It feels like there's like these looping codes that are bound within the Akashic field. So you're right, it's past life and working through, I guess this is why I created dowsing charts, because they give you the clues and the prompts that you need to be able to understand where the seeds of the problem are. And then with that, you have the power of the intention to be able to work with whatever healing modality you work to be able to release it. The intention is really everything, but it's understanding what your intention is and the problem to create your intention, I guess. But it definitely feels like regenerating issues. So it's almost like these codes are like, even if they're being addressed, the emotional conflict, and I'm hearing ancestral as well. It's like there's this belief structure, but it's almost like it feels like it's jumping in and out of different like 2, 3, 4D dimensional energies. So as it's jumping about, you can clear it from one place, but then it's regenerating into another spot. And as you go through life and you hit a certain frequency, then that regenerates into, okay, there's another block, or there's another block, or there's another block. So hence that, sorry. So I guess I'm also seeing, you've got your main chakra system, you've also got a minor chakra, and then it goes into what I call pearlescent chakras, which are like, I call them that because they look like little pearls and there's hundreds of them, thousands of them all over your body. So working through to release the emotional energy and the coded frequency from your ancestors held within these areas may actually help you move forward and out of those financial blocks, yeah.
Awesome. And, it's funny, while I heard you speak, I was actually just being told Jade. And so I just looked up the code. We can talk about how assisting frequencies unlock various aspects, because you hit the nail on the head where it's like an ingrained pattern that's already got so many tentacles that even if you consciously are aware of it and say, I see you, I want to edit you, there's all these underlying vibrations that have already been well established within your matrix of magnetism. And so, Jade, for some reason, this one specifically is coming up for you, Lizette. Jade assisting frequency. The code is 768-924-683-268. Now, you can, join the Master Alchemist course series to learn more about how this all works and what to do and the elixirs you can create, etc. And actually, Lizette, I think you might be in that course. Anyway, there's a bunch of us doing this journey right now, 89 of us in the waterbending masterclass. But the long story short is you can simply write out that code. I put it in the chat, 768, the space is required, 924 space, 683 space, 268. Write it down on a piece of paper with the words love and gratitude, tape it to water, just a glass, 4 ounces will do. And let that sit for 6 hours. Definitely project heart photons in it to stabilize and interconnect the wisdom, and then drink it. Put it on your third eye, put it in your belly button, put it on your heart chakra, put it in your bathtub, and absolutely look up what is jade and what is it doing in relation to massaging and editing those timelines of vibration that Susan was talking about that are very ancestral. And I know that jade is an ancestral thing, as well, because we've got to remember when we come into this world, we're not, it's a new body, but we're an old soul. And so there's some things that, as Susan said, if you just, you're going in this forest and you're just seeing the same thing over and over and over again, consciousness is required, but also a desire to then overwrite your limitations, which gets into subconscious repatterning and cellular regeneration. And that goes hand in hand with the jade. I know, I don't know a lot about it. I'm just feeling into the jade. So let's check that out. And thank you so much, Susan. I'm going to go to the next question. And Lizette says she feels abundant in most other stuff. Right. So I'll lastly say, edit the definition of money. because money has a vibrational baggage to you that's uncomfortable. When you see the abundance of the world, you get it and you feel it and you love it and you know it. There's something in the vibration of abundance that isn't correlating to actually what it means when you add the word money, because that has actually triggered you into the polarity of lack. Okay, so that's as much as I'll say about that right now. It's a path, but you can maybe replay it and listen to what I just said and really dissect that. So let's go to Joelle. She says, also, when we realize there is self-sabotage, what's the best way to see ourselves free from it? So awareness is key, but her actual question is, as a healer, what are your preferred methods of protecting yourself, as sometimes we take much on board than we realize? Namaste. So would you like to address that? So 2 parts. One is, how do you protect yourself? Because sometimes we take on too much. And the second part is, when you realize there's self-sabotage, what's the best way to set ourselves free from it?
Okay, so protection as a healer, you're absolutely 100% correct. And I think the best protection is light, just shining, and that heart space and that expansion. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes a natural flow. And I work a lot with the Merkaba. So the Merkaba is like a double-sided triangle. The top spins one way, the bottom spins the opposite way. I place this around each chakra, and then I place it around my full energy field. Within each of those Merkabas, I also place a Fibonacci spiral, because this helps to expand my heart space light out through. And then I state that anything that is of not love, of born of that light, will automatically be drawn out. And anything that is trying to attack or come into my space that is not mine, dense energies, emotions, etc., especially as I'm working and channeling as a psychic and a healer, that they will naturally deflect from me, so I'm not taking on that energy. And you find there are still situations where you do get, I mean, it's a natural thing when you're constantly channeling, you do get tired, but it's really important just to remember to take that time you need to rebalance and recalibrate through your own energy and to ground. I find, you know, just taking time each and every day to walk is priceless. You know, being in nature, being with the trees, being, you know, standing in a stream, all those sort of things are priceless. And then as you go along, it's also awareness. So the self-sabotage is pivotal for, as well as protecting yourself, because it's about conscious awareness of where your mind, your body and your soul is. And I started journaling when I stepped onto this path. I journal literally multiple times a day, and it may only be a few words at a time, or it may be a lot more depending on what I'm drawn to. But understanding the ebb and flow of who you are and your thoughts and your body and mind and soul, and then relating that to the activities that have been going on, allows you to make educated decisions as to, this is problematic, this is flow, this is coming from me releasing. So as you learn the different patterns of what you're experiencing, then you're able to make the positive steps forward. Okay, I tend to look at everything in life as a clue. So a lot of people will something will happen and they'll justify it. Oh, that's happened because of this, or that's happened because of that. And I mean, old people, no offense against older people, but oh, it's just because I'm getting old, or yeah, it's just because, you know, oh, it's a really cold day, so I'm getting sick because it's a really cold day. Well, what if it's not? What if it's a clue? Mm-hmm. If you start looking at everything in life as a clue, then that gives you the tool to go, why is it like that? What can I do about it? And as soon as you focus, it's like a calling card. You remember that network of threads that we just spoke about, that calling card. As soon as you think about it, you're making a call to go, what is that knowledge that I need to receive? And you start receiving. Ask, align, allow, receive.
Absolutely.
So
awesome. So then relate that to her second half of her. You sort of did, but let's go deeper into the whole, when you're aware of your self-sabotage, then what, right? There's something else that needs to occur. Awareness is great. That changes the vibration. But what are some steps beyond that that you have found valuable and helpful with related to self-sabotage?
Okay, so obviously being a self-employed person, I really needed to find focus and clarity, and also creativity for me is key. And I could constantly, like, I would sit there and I would just like, waste time. It's self-sabotage, classic self-sabotage. and it's like, oh, and I would just, okay, so I work with things like positive intention, like literally affirmations at morning and night for clarity, focus, being on task, being motivated. I would also work with setting self-tasks. So, you know, making sure that I had a calendar, that I had a list, and these are the things I'm going to achieve. I think because you're aware, if you can become aware of the life you want to live versus what you're experiencing, and then it comes down to willpower. Everyone's got free will. So what are the choices you want to make? You know, like, and what healing modalities are you using? If you're using healing modalities, and if you're working with assisting frequencies and water bending, like, hurrah, like, these are the most powerful tools to help you regain focus and create the correct balance and frequency within your body. So your brain waves are optimized so that you're staying focused and on task and able to break through from the self-sabotaging behaviors, because that's coming from that dense energy. Whereas you move into the higher vibration, all of a sudden you're focused, you're on task, you're making things happen, step by step, inspired action. I believe.
That's awesome. And actually, what you just said also relates to the 4% rule, which I'm going to add to this conversation, then we can take the next question. And that is that when you're bored, there's stagnation. You're like, ho hum, I don't feel like doing anything because this task is mundane. Likewise, if you're overwhelmed, you're like, oh God. And what happens on that end of the spectrum too is I'm frozen. I can't do anything. It's overwhelming. And so the key is to find that center point, once again, returning to the source in the now, where you are engaged and winning. Engaged and winning. So what does that mean? It means you haven't bitten off too much that you can chew, but you've also bitten off just enough to be present and in the game. There was a book written by Csikszentmihalyi called Flow, and it's really tied to our happiness. This is a key. So when you feel yourself overwhelmed and self-sabotaging and like it's a burden, you've gone too far. You have to pause and lighten up and take little bite-sized chunks of doable first, so that you can get that dopamine and those neurotransmitters firing and wiring and saying you're making change and progress, but it's not too difficult. Likewise, you got to get out of your own habits of the mundane being meaningless. Do something different. Eat with your left hand. You know, see if you can scrub the toilet bowl in 30 seconds. You know, like, what can you do with the life you have right now to remain engaged and productive? And I also find a lot of people go for the low-hanging fruit. And so having big, meaty goals, but also little pathways to them of progress is very, very critical. And I think that's what is so wonderful about our Rainbow Tribe, that you unlock through the consultancy too, is that every Monday we explore different facets of your ability to create and be productive and reach your goals. And so it's not just about understanding you have self-sabotage, it's understanding why you have self-sabotage, because it's normal, and then taking the actual action steps to remain in flow-based living, where it's the joy of the journey. And all these tools and techniques will really support you in breaking old patterns and moving forward. So the 4% rule is that don't go crazy. You know, don't say I'm going to go to the gym every day. Just say I'm going to go 4% more than I used to, right? These are building steady habits and incremental change that adds up to rewiring. And then that becomes your norm. Assisting frequencies and water bending, of course, can get you there in lickety split.
On that note, that I think what you're saying about overwhelm is really important to note, because even sometimes you completely go stagnant because of that overwhelm, but it's like less is more. Like when you make yourself that list and you decide that that list is going to actually be achievable, you're not just making a list that is so huge and out of your control that, you know, that's just ridiculous. You look at it and you be realistic about what you can achieve. And then that's your goal for the day, rather than just blowing it all out of the water, which is crazy. And then
Yeah.
breathing. So if you start to get even overwhelmed at that, just, take a break. Everybody needs a break. So again, monitoring, being conscious of those micro moments of, oh, breathe it in, let it out, let it out, let it out. I'm going to flow, ease, grace, and flow.
Yeah.
And then just move on.
Yeah, and you just reminded me of the one technique that was really beneficial for me, and I wish I could remember the person. I try and source the people, but I can't remember. And if anyone knows, definitely let's give credit to whomever this was. I heard this very effective way was to build your to-do list of everything that you wish you could accomplish during the day, then picking a few really mega wins. Like if I could do this and that's all I could do today, it would be a win. So make sure you have one of those. And then the other stuff where you're like, well, that means I probably won't get to any of this. You move that over to a list called to you. So you have a to-do list and then you have a to you list. What is the to you? That means those are things that you are letting go of just for today that you welcome the universe to complete for you. To universe, to do and to universe. And then you just have fun with that, because oftentimes those things on that list miraculously resolve. They take care of themselves. And the last tip I would say is either do it, delegate it, delete it, or digitize, right? You don't have to work harder, you can work smarter. So those are the D's of progress in my book, if you're a bliss bizzer and you don't want to encounter overwhelm or frozen or lack of productivity. And the other thing is join the Rainbow Tribe, right? Lots more where this comes from, and certainly become a consultant if you're interested in joining us, joining Susan and I as a consultant. I'm a consultant too. I'm on this learning path and we're growing our bliss business together. I consider myself part of the consultancy, even though I'm sort of leading in a miraculous way that blows my mind, because this is my bliss. Like I would do this as a hobby and I get to do this for my passion. It's just like, wow. So there's a link that we will link up specifically through Susan so that you can come to us. It's an application process. And if I think you'd be great in, and guys, I want to stress, it can be all levels of alchemy. You can have all sorts of cool stuff already going, like Susan, which I want you to share your YouTube channel as well. Her illustrations are mind-boggling. And I had full angel bumps when she applied. I was like, this woman is incredible. Like, wow. And so there's so much to her, but I don't want you to translate that into I don't have that. Like, that's the point of this, is that we're on a journey together and that you're going to learn and be inspired. And I'm going to teach you how to mold that into what it is you came here to do, even if you haven't even started yet. Or you could have started and it's just going to infuse more magic into what you're offering and give you some strategies, tactics, clarity, motivation, accountability, etc. Okay, so let's keep going here. Nora says, I feel like I'm tethered to a spirit that keeps pulling me back. Do you want to hone into that? It's Nora. She's amazing. I love her. How are you, honey? But she says she feels like she's tethered to a spirit that keeps pulling her back. Do you see anything for her, Susan?
Give me a second.
Yep.
It's possibly like an earthbound soul around you. Like a grandparent, maybe. Sometimes they hang around. If it's not from this life, it might be from a different life. I know I had a mother around me from a different life the other day trying to tell me something, which I did work out, by the way. There was no confusion there, but there seems to be attachment and energy binds associated with vows. Possibly, quite often they come from vows of love and not wanting to let go or being protective, and that energy then holds on and it creates this corded attachment that stays within your energy field. So if you can recognize it and bring love to that soul and let them know that it's okay to renounce the vows and consciously let go, that you can then allow, you know, call in the angels and they can help that person cross over, which is quite beautiful really to go through. Yeah, and you can feel quite a lot lighter.
I would add maybe ask. I always say this: ask, align, allow, activate. Not asking as an invitation, asking as a resolution, right? So expanding that into conscious awareness of what actually is occurring. Just ask and see what answers come. Remember, you can't ever be manipulated by anyone, because you have sovereignty. You are, through your focus, allowing. And so this renders all curses or entanglements that aren't within your actual focus non-existent. So that is a quantum certainty. So you can feel secure knowing that this is just an exploration versus an invitation. And just ask, see what occurs, what comes through. Quiet your mind and think of you know, understanding versus why are you pulling me back, right? So what happens when you turn around and actually go the way of the pull? It's no longer resistant. You're just saying, oh, I'm curious, and I know that I'm sovereign, and we can sort this out. Communication is expansion and resolution. That's awesome that you're exploring, though, that you feel that.
It's that exploring and understanding the why, I think, that helps you. And I mean, sometimes we hear it, but we don't really believe it or trust what we're feeling or understanding. And this is why I quite often will let go and write, and just write whatever comes to mind without my head getting in the way. So as you write, you can do, I'll just sit there and I'll go on listening. I'm listening, and I'll write whatever comes to mind, and then I'll read back and I'm like, and then I'll ask questions, obviously the spirit. And this is how the clarity evolves for me. So I'm not sure if that works for others as well, but it is literally just asking and allowing, and then trusting what you're feeling and experiencing for that to be resolved as you call in whatever is energy to needed. And, you know, as you're calling in the angels, you can, you know, for this soul that is obviously lost and bound into your energy field, you can ask for their light to be reactivated as they're crossing over, for your light to be activated without that presence within you, so that you feel lighter. And it's another step toward your whole higher purpose and soul activation. So this may be part of your own learning curve to move forward into that higher purpose.
Yeah. Awesome. So this is sort of related, but also another layer of the same sort of conversation in a weird way. And that's from Larry. He says he was recently told by a shaman that his highest evolution is a natural healer. What is your perspective on that? I mean, I have one. What's your perspective on being told that your highest evolution is a natural healer, specifically for Larry? Do you see that in his mapping?
Yeah, I do actually, just off the cuff. I think also that it can be overwhelming when you're told something like that and you're like, well, I'm just me, heck. So how am I supposed to get to that? So I'm not sure your situation, Larry, but I feel like you've got a lot of steps, of a lot of potential to step into still. And through those, I mean, the energetic body is huge. There's lots of different layers of consciousness and energy that you work through. And I know on my own personal journey where I've come from being in this shell, and it's only by step action. And I can see, because as I said, I journal, I can understand where I've had these pivotal moments. And as I've slowly expanded from being able to see from past lives and understanding other people into this more galactic, into this quantum field. And it blows me away now, like when I close my eyes and I'm just transversing universes. But if I was told to do that back 6-7 years ago, I would have been like, oh, when I might have walked away, you know, like, you don't know, because it's too overwhelming. So it's important just to focus on the next step and keep focusing on what is I need at this point to be the best me possible. And in being the best me, that automatically awakens the soul to hear, know, and see and experience more toward your soul's higher purpose.
Yeah.
Mm.
And yes, that's totally it. And so go back and listen to all of that, Larry, again. And I would just add that what resonates with your soul, you can be told anything and it's always someone else's opinion. So you don't have to take on anyone's truth as truth. And so does that ignite passion within you and exploration? Awesome, follow that. If not, don't follow it. I was told by a psychic before I started channeling codes, they were like, what are all these numbers coming down? What are these numbers? And I was like, what are you talking about? I had no clue, but I was curious and open. And so eventually down the road, when I got another nugget from my higher self and then the divine download, I knew instantly, oh, it's numbers. But the thing is you don't really know forward. So how do you feel? And does that ignite joy and purpose and passion and curiosity within you? And if it does, ask, align, allow, activate, follow that path of curiosity, and you will be given the little nuggets of gold to then decide, do I like that? This is just perception. This is intuition. This is this life is whatever you make of it. Regardless of what someone else tells you, it's what you decide to own as part of your identity. And guess what? We have access to limitlessness. So it can be anything and can transform in an instant. So best of luck on that path. We would welcome you in to learn about your gifts, what you came here to do, how you came to serve and lead. Let's go to the Zoom user anonymous question. This is an important question. And then I think we may wrap up and then just read some comments. This person's question is about relationship to the emotion of anger, unexpressed anger, numb to anger, or denial of anger. Perhaps last lifetime holdover, ? So let's get into a quick discussion about dense emotions, specifically anger, either unexpressed, numb, or denial. What are your thoughts on that, Susan?
I tend to think a lot of this is like, if it doesn't feel like experiences that you have in this lifetime are very interconnected to experiences in past lifetimes, as well as the ancestral trauma that has been rebirthed into the codes of this lifetime and the body you exist in. In saying that, a lot of that anger is within the deeper consciousness. So as it sits below the surface, and this is why it can trigger or be mental looping and stuff. It can be tricky to work through. It can also be, like the unraveling of anger is, sorry, I'm stumbling here. Anger always feels like a virus. It's like within that underneath zone of the consciousness, it feels like a viral energy because it grows, it's alive. And because it's alive like that, you find other difficult energies often attached to it. So therefore you're being then assaulted essentially through that anger, not just emotionally and mentally, but also physically, because it starts to manifest into these physical symptoms. Mm-hmm. And that's where the understanding of rewiring the brain and, this way, like frequencies like your, so how do you say that word, self-fogio frequencies and stuff, can really, when you're working with intentions, can really help to release what's underneath. And if you're aware that it's there and you're setting the intentions for it to be released through all that you are, mind, body, and soul, and you keep working with those intentions, and then you are working also with other practices that it's like the black and white, the yin, the yang, the masculine, the feminine. What do you need to balance to move out of that dense energy into a lighter energy? And again, this is where the practice of water bending, so that you are actually infusing your body with the correct frequencies and feeding it correctly, the assisting frequencies through heart space and that energy that flows out, and then working with crystals or grid work, sacred geometry. There's just so many different ways when you're aware of it being there that you can then take a sort of action. But again, it's a choice. It always comes down to a choice, and whether you've got the willpower, I guess, to follow through. And this is where, again, what Holly said earlier about that 4% shift and change. What is achievable when everything is so dark and everything might feel angry and annoying? And what can you do? Stop looking at what you can't do, but what can you do? And even if it's just, you know, changing one thought until you've got that thought nailed, you know, like when I was coming out of deep illness, there was a lot of anger there. Like I'd spent a whole life just being sick, like, and having no energy and not giving my children the upbringing I truly wanted. And so it was about, you know, every time I was like, oh, this is hopeless, I would have to reword it in my head, reword it and say it out loud and find an affirmation that would counteract that thought, that emotion, that, you know, existence within me, so that I was turning it around and becoming. And then I would go outside and I'm like, I'm drawing on the good. I believe in me. I am enough, and I don't have to live this way. This is my choice. And it's amazing. The power of the mind is incredible above all else, you know. Everything else is a huge bonus. Yeah, practically, when you're stepping into something, that is the most, you know, as well as creativity, art, you know, what, maybe you're not an art, maybe it's like music, or maybe it's drawing, maybe it's cooking, maybe it's, I don't know, what do you love? I know some people draw and it drives them crazy and makes them angry. For me, it's the opposite, but everyone's got an outlet. So what is your outlet that allows your soul to shine? And that's where you need to start focusing, because often that's also where your divine purpose lies.
Yeah. So I'm going to touch on this in relation to what you just said about reaching for just a little bit more. What can you find? So one of my toolboxes, which is common for a lot of the people that seem to magnetize to me, is I was an emotion code practitioner. I got certified. So I was really exploring my dense emotions. They call them negative, but I don't call them negative anymore. I call them dense, because they don't feel good. And so we're programmed to go towards pleasure and away from pain. So innately, we are wired to avoid the emotions that don't feel good. And that's where suppression and denial and shadow work, it gets critical, because you don't want to do that. I want you to try this on and see if this makes you feel better. Also, the people talking about, let's see, Vesna said that she lost hope. She doesn't believe in herself, and she can hold on to it for a day or so, but then what should she do? And so this will help. Reach for what you can that's higher up on the scale, because you're not going to go from hopeless to joy-filled hope in an instant. You can. There's quantum hacks to make you do that, absolutely. But most likely, you're going to have to rise up the emotional scale. So there's a beautiful tool that is called the Esther and Jerry Hicks layers, or vibrational emotional scale. You can just Google it. And the thing you'll notice is, between dense and elevated emotions, ones that feel good and ones that feel terrible, there is a center point called contentment. So the goal is reach for a contentment and higher. If you're struggling with anger and hopelessness, or whatever dense emotion you're feeling, first of all, it's an alert. Where do you feel it in your body? Allow that to be expressed. Don't deny it. You need to feel it and honor it. It is a messenger. It's telling you this does not match with your source of limitlessness, the source within you that is unconditional love. And it's nothing you should be ashamed of. That's actually one of the densest emotions, is shame. And you simply say, what can I reach for now that's higher on the scale? Eventually, you'll come to contentment. Contentment simply means you're accepting of what is, even if you don't want it. It's okay. It's okay. It's a baseline peace. And then what can you do to raise higher and higher? Eating well, high vibe foods, grounding your energy, getting rest, pulling codes, drinking blessed water, surrounding yourself with the people, places, and things that hold that vision of truth for you and unconditional love. And then gently overriding, pruning, weeding out any of those those pattern thoughts that keep pulling you back into that realization, because emotion is the memory, right? It's the memory of what it was, and then you spiral. And you don't want that baggage to be something that you keep denying. Explore it, own it, go to the source of it, allow it, feel it, honor it. What's the message telling you in terms of the part of you that keeps going back to these patterns? And I always say, your truth is your truth and it's true, but do you want it to be? You are the sole author of your life. We have neuroplasticity. We can fire and wire new realities. We can magnetize through new meanings, and you can upgrade every aspect of your life. There is hope for anyone. It can be quantum, or it can be slow, or both. And I encourage you to just reach out, find your tribe. We have 1 minute left. Joelle says, bless you and thank you all for shining your amazing lights, caring and sharing. Namaste, beloveds. I know there were questions we didn't get to. I just want to honor Brooke. I love you, sister. I know you were saying something up here about you have concerns. And let's all take one moment to just shine our healing energy into this circle, both people listening in replay and live. And let's see everyone as whole, heal, healthy, thriving, as well as let's see the divine connection to their highest expression, which holds all the answers, ignited and invested, and you can hear it. Let's embalm this circle with the ability to really break free from old patterns that don't serve, to illuminate the parts of us that need the light, and to shine and reverberate vibrancy. That's your capacity to live, grow, and evolve into every cell. And let's really unite and see all of the densities, any patterns that don't serve us, coming down into the earth for transmutation. This can be instantaneous and lasting. And I hope that each of you is just, we left you a little better than you were. And thanks. I think I have not asked my question in the right way. Vesna, reach out to us, come into the group. We will support you. We are here for you on your blessed path of awakening. And I hope you guys enjoyed this first quantum leading session. I want to vocally mention before we end that the assisting frequency consultant link for Susan is in this chat. I'm going to put it in the description of the video in the replay. So go to the description as well. I'm going to link through all of her one-on-one session links, her YouTube channel, her Facebook groups. Her website is healwithairmeith.com, and I'm probably mispronouncing that again, but it's HEALWITHAIR, like air, Meth, MEITH, the Celtic goddess of healing in the house. It was such a pleasure to be with you, Susan. You are such a light in the world. And I am just so thrilled that you have magnetized to us. And I'm so excited for everything you're doing. Thanks again. Guys, we will be doing more of these. So tune in, make sure messages are on. You are so welcome, everyone. Love you. Mwah, mwah, mwah. And we will talk soon. Bye for now, everyone. Susan, do you want to say anything before we end? I'll let you have the last word.
Oh, thank you everyone for being here. It's just so blessed. I just feel so fortunate to be a part of this soul energy. It's just incredible. I love the journey every single day, just what it brings, the opportunities, and just being open for more. What's next? What's the next step? Bring it on. Let's do it together. Yes.
Yes. All right, guys. Much love.
Cheers, everyone.
Love you.